So if you're going to take a myth class, the first thing you got to wrap your head around is, what are you studying? What is a myth? I have a definition here: myth, a sacred story told as true, that I use in my classes, and I actually use this definition to structure my classes. We'll come across lots of different related but varying definitions in this class. And of course, in the end, it's up to you to come up with your own definition for you, develop your own understanding, right? But I find this definition to be very useful. It sort of encompasses everything that I'm hoping that you will get out of this class. And we're going to look at each of these elements in order over the course of the class. But in brief, in short, let's look at these three ideas. The first, of course, is sacred. And a sacred story, or a sacred anything, defining something as sacred means that it has something to do with, it has some sort of definition, some sort of relationship to another world. It's an acknowledgement or an awareness that there is more to the world than what the physical senses can perceive. And so because the physical senses can't perceive it, it's an awareness from within, or it's an awareness that takes place without evidence, right? Because evidence is physical. So if something is sacred, it connects us, because we're in the physical world, right? It connects us somehow with this other world. Next, in the week 2 materials, you'll see there's a little lecture I put together on the term numinous. I'm going to use that a lot in this class. And numinous is another way of saying essentially the same thing. Numinous is that feeling you get when the hair on the back of your neck stands up, because there's something weird. There's something unexplainable going on. And that's what myth has to do with. It either explains, or it acknowledges, or sometimes it even creates a perception of something out of this world. Oftentimes in stories, the metaphor that's used is crossing a boundary. So you cross across the river Styx, or you cross, you take the red pill in the Matrix to take yourself out of the ordinary and into the extraordinary. And I do have a clip here that may explain it better than that.
This is it. This is what? If I take one more step, it'll be the farthest away from home I've ever been. Come on, Sam. Remember what Bilbo used to say? It's a dangerous business, Frodo, going out your door. You step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to.
So Sam knows this is a big step, no pun intended. It's not just another step in his journey. It's crossing a boundary, leaving the familiar into a world in which, as Gandalf says, you know, there's no knowing. There's no knowing. It's actually, that's a very good phrase. You can't know this not by the way that you know the physical world. You have to know it in another way. And that's something that myth helps provide. And myth helps provide that through narrative, through the story. A myth is a story. It's also a performance. If we're talking about a storytelling tradition, right, we're going to read myths. But that's not how they were originally conceived. They were conceived to be told, as in, this is an image from a Greek vase of a Greek bard or rhapsody, they were called, who actually would sing, chant really, the ancient Greek myths that a lot of you are familiar with, especially if you read like the Odyssey or the Iliad. Those were designed to be chanted, to be performed, but they're narratives as well. They're stories. And so that's what this class is about. It's about storytelling. It's also specifically, because there's lots of different places and ways that stories are told, this is religious storytelling. Narratives or myths are part of a religious tradition. And all religions have myths. Religion is a bigger concept. Religions also have beliefs, and they have rituals, and they have institutions a lot of times. But myth is a part of religion. And this is really important because, well, it's important because of part 3, told as true. The Bible is a myth system. That does not, however, denigrate it or make it, that doesn't imply that it's not true. In this class, we do not concern ourselves with true in quotation marks, as it says there, as opposed to true. That's not our job. Because remember, we're dealing with a reality that is not physical, a reality that is more than or other than the real world. There's no way to prove it through physical means, science, right? Science cannot prove or disprove myth because the myths aren't a truth that reflects our ordinary reality. I like to say that myths are actually more than true because they deal with a truth, with a reality, with an awareness that is bigger than just our physical existence. So they're told as true. They are meaningful to the people who tell them. And that's important to acknowledge. If you have a strong religious belief yourself, a religious faith, studying myth doesn't mean that you have to believe the myths are true. You do, however, have to recognize that they're told as true and believed to reflect reality by the people who tell them and who accept them, whose religious system these myths are a part of. And the reason I have a picture here of a father with his baby, a lot of the times I try to explain it this way. If you're a parent, you know that your child is the smartest, most beautiful, cleverest, most amazing human being that the universe has ever seen. No one is ever going to convince you differently. I don't care what kind of argument they put together. You're just not going to buy it. However, you probably also recognize that all of your friends who have kids think their kid is just as good, better. Their kid's the best, not yours. And you can understand that without believing it, right? It's like a psychologist who studies the phenomenon of maternal love, studies why mothers love their kids. That doesn't make that psychologist love their own child any less. So in this class, we understand myths to be told as true. And we just move on from there. And the last thing to understand in this definition is that myth does not mean falsehood. That is actually a very commonly used definition in modern speech, right? Oh, that's just a myth. You hear that all the time, meaning, oh, that's not true. Think about the Mythbusters show that I happen to love. However, I don't quite love their title as much because they talk about busting myths. Oh, that's a myth. It wasn't true. Now, that's not exactly true because sometimes they confirm myths, so they recognize them that they can be true, but the term myth is kind of being used to mean a unsubstantiated belief. And that's not the way that mythologists approach it. That's not the way we're going to approach it. Myth is a sacred story told as true. So its objective truth is irrelevant. It's a cultural artifact, and we're looking at it in terms of its functions within a culture, not whether it corresponds to any of our realities or any sort of scientific objective truth. So we don't use the term myth, meaning falsehood, in this class. And that's about it. Myth is a sacred story told as true. Keep that in the back of your mind, at least for the next 16 weeks, and I would say keep it in mind for the rest of your lives.